Yeah, definitely agree with you on that. And I also heard a lot about you being an awesome therapist. So, what inspired you to become a therapist, and what do you do as a therapist? Like maybe you help children, or maybe it could be something else. You tell me.
Yeah, so I when I was little, I really wanted to be an astronomer, but where I lived was in the deep south and we were pretty poor and they were like girls aren't astronomers. Like that's not going to happen. And so I was always a writer. I would write instead of talk. I would write. I write poems. I would write papers. I would write personal essays. Never was a particularly good fiction writer. So I ended up going in high school. I was editor of the school newspaper and I helped produce a weekly news show and wrote for that. So I was lucky enough in Missouri where I live, there's the world's first journalism school called University of Missouri Columbia, Mizzou for short. And so I actually attained my degree in broadcast journalism. I was an NPR reporter and wrote for radio. So I that's one of the things. I often do not like to be perceived, which sounds really silly whenever you've got a bright pink jacket on and lipstick and all of that, but that's part of the masking that is presented. What I prefer to communicate is through my words, either written or you hear me. I don't prefer eye contact and I don't prefer in person. So, as I was navigating journalism school, I noticed really quickly that my stimulation levels were really challenging. The press corps is really loud. I went to the Supreme Court once in Missouri to hear about a gun ruling, and they just scream, and it's a lot of men being very aggressive. And I would get shut down because I didn't necessarily know how to articulate or work through that pressure. But I did finish my degree and I did well with it. But I had taken some counseling courses, you know, because you have to have requisites and electives and things like that. And I took one class in what we call agency counseling, which is helping people who are either disabled or people who are very poor without resources. And something about that class caught my attention. I recognized a lot of the things that were happening in that world and in that space because I had experienced them. So I quickly went into graduate school, and that's where I got my degree in agency counseling. I've been in private practice now for 10 years. I've been in the field for about 20, but when I first started, I did work exclusively with children. I felt a special calling to children. Eventually, I moved on to working with children with autism, and this was before I had my diagnosis. But I would help parents implement behavior plans and do all kinds of work. But I did in home. I would come to the home and work with the family in the home. Um, when I went into private practice, I kind of shifted and started taking on adults. And when COVID happened, I transitioned to telehealth because, like everybody else, we were just going to go home for a couple of weeks and come back. Well, I never went back to my office because I found really quickly how much I loved telehealth because I didn't have to be in person with anybody. And if I didn't want to be seen, I could turn off my video and they could too. And so I've been in telehealth for the last 6 years. I do specialize now in complex PTSD, as well as PTSD. And fun fact, more than 80% of people who are on the spectrum also qualify as a diagnosis of complex PTSD.
Wow. Definitely sounds like you had quite the journey. I
Yes.
especially wanted to become an author and illustrator for some of the same reasons. And I also wanted to share a nice story about everything I've been through in my life through not being able to speak at a young age, to numerous life challenges, and
Right.
finally being able to find my voice. So, yeah, it's
Right.
been pretty much of a journey, but I've had quite some honors throughout the years.
Yes, well earned, well earned. And I think that this is one of those things that is important to talk about our wins. A lot of people want to focus on the challenges. And I do have a caveat. We don't have a superpower. So when I hear people say that, like, oh, it's our superpower, I'm like, it can give you some super interesting things, and there are gifts associated with it. Like I can hear like anything. I can hear electricity. But it's like some of your superheroes, their greatest gift is their biggest curse, right? So I love the fact that I have all of these super heightened senses, and then sometimes I'm completely overwhelmed with it because I can't make my brain stop.
Yeah, that sometimes happens to me as well. I feel like autism is sometimes what I like to call my superpower. It makes me unique
Yes,
and it makes me myself. Even
it
if it
does.
sometimes gets too powerful, I don't mind it because it still makes me unique. And that's why I like to call it my superpower.
I totally get it. And I think it's been a really positive thing. I think sometimes when people, especially people who are not diagnosed, use it as that language, I think that it discounts the challenges potentially that that person has gone through to get to that spot. Um, it doesn't mean that we need to fragilize or infantilize people who are on the spectrum. Even people who are level two, who are non-verbal, does not mean that they are not communicative. They just don't talk. They know exactly what's going on. They may need assistive devices. And so some of the language, I think, especially for people who are not within the community, they use that language and it signals something that doesn't quite match up with the person who's experiencing it maybe that day in a way that's very hard to be them that day.
Yeah, we all have tough days sometimes. And even if it feels like you just want to give up or want the day to end, don't worry. The day will end and then it will be a brand new day and another
You know,
chance
that's
to
right.
try again. And
That's right.
that's the great thing about letting your troubles go in the past.
That's right. That's right. We're big on that. I say that every day at my house at least one point. We'll try again tomorrow because we're all a work in progress. Like, no matter how many degrees you have, no matter how many books we write, no matter how many podcasts we produce, we always have something better and better and better to get at and to do. I think that the day that you stop learning and stop creating, well, that's probably the day that you start dying a little bit. So I love the fact that you are so motivated, and not intimidated. I think that that's something that I really, really admire about you, Jacob. And, if I could go back to younger Erica, let her know she doesn't have to be so afraid of things.
Yeah. Definitely sounds like you could just go back in the past and tell your younger self that there's nothing to fear because at least everyone, almost everyone, not exactly everyone, goes through the same thing that your younger self experienced. So that's why it's great to know that you are never, ever alone.
No, no. Nope. And the more that we give access to this, again, if you've met one person with autism, you've just done that. You've met one person with autism. Some of us are really good at math, some of us are not. Some of us are great speakers, some of us are not. Some of us love music, some of us don't. Um, but we do all share these overlapping features, and we know that those features include social communication and sensory, which to me, I don't know. What do you think is the hardest thing for you? Communication,
Well,
sensory,
um,
social? What do you think?
I'd say that one of the hardest things for me is there's a lot of things. Watching stuff that I don't like on TV or my iPad, or maybe listening to a song I don't really like, but it's for the little kids to dance to. And I also have an extreme fear of heights. I don't like Ferris wheels or humongous water slides or especially
Yeah.
escalators, and that's pretty hard for me.
Yeah. I can appreciate that. I struggle with loud noises. And when I was little, people just didn't understand it because even like lightning and thunder, I wasn't afraid of the lightning. I was afraid of the thunder. And my parents would try to reason with me and say, the lightning is the thing that hurts. And I would say, no, the sound hurts. But I never could make anybody understand that the sounds hurt. I think I probably struggle with sensory the most. I have a lot of sensory issues.
Yeah, I go through some of the same issues. Like, I'm also pretty sensitive to loud noises, and I usually like to wear earplugs or noise canceling headphones to help with that
Yep.
because I'm just a bit worried about losing my hearing. And I bet that's what most autistic people fear of when it comes to loud noises. They just fear of losing their hearing or something bad might happen.
That's the big one. It feels like in my body like something really bad is about to happen and it feels uncontrollable. And so like I can't do fireworks. My kids love fireworks and I'm like I can't. I just can't. And even like food things. I have a lot of food issues. I don't know if you've heard of this, but there is an avoidant restrictive food issue that a lot of people on the spectrum have, where it's not a full eating disorder like anorexia or bulimia, but it's a certain kind of feeding disorder where we know that we don't like certain items because of the way that they feel. It's a texture issue more than it's a taste issue. Like I think about mushrooms, like no. Like I'll freak out and I'll like that's a way to set me up for a meltdown is if there's food that I can't that I don't like and that's the only thing it will trigger a meltdown.
Oh, you bet. Definitely sounds very, very similar to me. We definitely have a lot in common. And
Yes,
it's great to know that we are not alone. And it's great to know that everyone goes through similar struggles. And I'm glad that you are definitely one of those people, along with me, who goes through similar struggles and experiences the same things in everyday life.
that's right. I would kid with my grandpa. He would always say how picky of an eater I was. And he would always tell me I would grow out of it. And my grandpa's still alive. And I love to tease him and say, I'm 43. I still haven't grown out of it, just so you know. And, we've come a long way with it. When I first told my family that I was autistic, people didn't quite understand it because they were like, but you're married, you have a job. Well, one thing that I do want to say is working has not always been the easiest thing for me. And we know that only 20% of people on the spectrum are actually full-time employed. And that's a big problem. I'm hoping to continue to advocate through my work to make sure that more people understand that we can work and we do work. And as long as you give us accommodations that allow us to work, we are excellent employees. Um, a lot of people don't know how to manage us is one of the challenges. We tend to be autodidactic, meaning we self-teach and we want to be left alone. And so for a lot of neurotypicals, they're like, well, why are you alone? So working in groups, that's one of the biggest reasons why I started my own job, my own business, my own everything. It's not that I don't get along well with other people, it's that I prefer to create alone.
Yeah, that definitely sounds a lot similar to me. And
Hmm.
I'm very glad that you were able to come on and share those life experiences with me. And
Yes,
I
thank you,
also want to let you
Jacob.
know that it's never okay for anyone to tell you off, especially your grandpa, because no one should be told that you'll grow out of it.
That's
Never.
right. Never. No, but we can keep teaching them, can't we?
That's right. And that's the great thing to know about autism people. We can keep teaching them so they can learn more and more.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you for spending this time with me. It was great
Thanks for
having a nice
having me.
conversation with you.
You too. You're going to do great things. You're going to keep doing great things, and I look forward to your next series.
Oh, you bet you will do great things as well. And you're already doing great things, if I have to be honest.
Thanks, Jacob. I appreciate that. Well, I'll
Oh,
get a signed copy, okay?
oh, of course. Anytime at all.